Alright, it's time to set up our hosting service that we'll use for our website. To understand hosting better, it helps to understand the basics of what is happening behind the scenes. Our hosting company rents us a server or a piece of their server to store the contents of our website and host it to the internet. When someone searches our domain, their web browser queries the domain as to what to do. Since our DNS will have that A record pointing to our host server, it will direct the user to your website that is hosted on that server. Now let's jump into hosting providers and how to find the right ones for your needs. All hosting providers are not created equal. The server you're renting from your hosting company could possibly be shared by thousands of people if you're purchasing what is called shared hosting. Shared hosting is often the cheapest option when it comes to hosting. And the cheapest option is not always the best option. In this case, that is certainly the case. It can cause serious issues for your website and your business. There are two big reasons this can cause issues, and it's caused me hours of grief. So let me save you some time. The first one is shared hosting providers are very restrictive with what you can do. Upload limits, limited backends, and limited options often force customers to reach out to support, which is also often lacking as well, and often backlogged because there have to be so many support tickets logged to get anything done on your website. Since the shared hosting is shared by definition, it's sharing the resources across the same servers. So if some other customer decides to do something malicious or use all their resources and then some, all the other customers that are using that server are adversely affected, and that means you, and if you're running a business, that also means your customer, which is obviously not a good thing. Some hosts I've had a bad experience with are 1&1 and HostGator, and I don't mean I've had a bad day with them or a bad ticket. I mean it was the worst customer experience I've ever had. Both of them, worst customer experience. Definitely HostGator took the award for the worst experience ever. It resulted in months of lost time, money, and energy. So I definitely want to save you folks some time. If you absolutely insist and feel like you have to use a shared hosting service, the only company I can really recommend is SiteGround. Their service is amazing, and I used them for several years before I found the provider that I use now, which is Cloudways. The other hosting term that we want to understand is managed hosting. Managed hosting means that someone else is managing the server, the updates, the patches, all that fun stuff, so you don't have to worry about it. If you're watching this class, chances are you don't know how to properly manage a server, or it's likely just not time effective for you to start managing your own server, so I highly just recommend keep it simple and use a managed hosting provider. It's usually just a couple dollars extra per month, usually. My absolute favorite provider lets you use a cloud server of your choice, like Vultr, DigitalOcean, AWS, whatever you want to use. It manages it for you. I've used them for years now with no issues, and in this tutorial we will use Cloudways, which is what I'm talking about since it is the best value. We'll use that, and also it's very simple to set up and very cheap also monthly. I'll include a secure link to use and see if I can rustle up a discount as well, if at all possible. So let's go ahead and start an account. Okay, great. So let's jump into Cloudways here. First, I'll, as I mentioned earlier, if you haven't already clicked the link to Cloudways, I'll provide a link for you, and it will give you a free trial where you can spin up a server and do everything we need to do for free, which is fantastic. You can get up and running without spending any money on the hosting side, and that's for, I believe, for 30 days. And after that, there's no big surprise charges here. The server we'll be spinning up together will cost approximately $11 a month, which is a pretty great price to have your own cloud server set up there, and that'll be great for your uses, and it'll be perfect for our tutorial here. So first, what we'll do is we'll deploy a server, and we'll also deploy an application on top of that server. So we'll start at the very top here. You see, first we'll select the WordPress version. Click the drop down here. All right, so these are all the different applications that you can have installed on your server. First, you have all the different WordPress possibilities. You have version 5.1, and this includes all the cloudways optimization. You have a version 5.1 with WooCommerce, and that also includes a WooCommerce version 3.5.1. There's also the WordPress multi-site version. If you want to have multiple WordPress websites hosted on the same domain. For this tutorial, we will not do that. And for today, we'll use the clean, no cloudways optimized version. And the reason we'll do that is because typically when I've used the cloudways optimized version, the top one here, it's given me trouble with, or given me issues with certain plugins that I've used that were very necessary for that particular application. Can't remember off the top of my head which plugins it was, but I'll try to remember and post it later. These are all the other applications you can install. You'll notice PHP, you can install a custom app that's PHP. You also have other CMS options. I'll just scroll through those so you can see them all. But for this tutorial, we'll keep it simple. Select clean, no cloudways optimization. We'll leave this, so we'll name, this is where you'll name your application, whatever you want. I'll name it Zach's Llamas. And we'll name my managed server the Llama server. And we'll create a project called Zach's Llamas. If you haven't already typed that in, type that in. Perfect. Okay, so now let's select the server. You'll notice that you have DigitalOcean, Linode, Vultr, AWS, and Google. For today, I recommend we select Vultr, DigitalOcean. We'll select 1 GB server size and select Vultr. So what does all this mean? Just quickly, we'll go over this. 1 GB of RAM. There's 25 GB of storage, and that's SSD, so that's a solid state drive is what that means. And then 1 TB of transfer with one core processor. This is all you're going to need to run at least one website, especially if you have less than 10,000 visitors a month. Once you get more than that, it might be worth checking out, upgrading a little bit, maybe not. But generally, for our purposes, we'll stick with the 1 GB. Now, when it comes to location, this is where you'll select the location of your server. If you're local, let's say, for example, I'm in South Carolina, and if Zach's Llamas is a service that sells llamas, particularly in South Carolina or the Southeast, I'll try to select the location that is in the Southeast region because I'm in the Southeast and so are my clients. You'll typically want to choose a server that your end client will be located in because that will result in a faster loading times. So I'll select Atlanta since I'm in the Southeast and go ahead and hit the launch button to launch my server. All right, so once that server starts to launch, we can jump in. Okay, now that our server has started to spin up, it takes usually approximately maybe 15 minutes or less. So once this is finished standing up, we'll see the servers here in the server's location, and this is the Llama server. See, it's the little vulture icon here, and we can click on it. Okay, so this is what it looks like once you've clicked on the server. You'll notice these are all your server management options and menu areas. The first section here is your master credentials. This is your public IP, and this is the IP that we will click and copy to add to our DNS in just a second. So go ahead and click and copy that. You'll also notice this is the username, and you can click and copy the username and password to access the server. Now, these are the credentials to access the server and not your WordPress application. So please don't get those mixed up. I've done that before. Easy to do. So we'll click and copy this public IP here, and we'll jump over to Google Domains where our domain is kept. And we see we have zaxllamas.com. Let's manage that domain. We'll jump over here to DNS, click on that. And we'll scroll all the way down to the bottom to Custom Resource Records. We'll leave that @ symbol there, and we'll make sure that we select an A record. We can leave it at 1H, 1 hour, and then we'll paste that IP address. And we'll click the Add button. Now, when it comes to DNS updates, creating records, it can take 24 to 48 hours for it to actually show up. So it can take a while. But let's just try it. Yeah. zaxllamas.com. It's going to take a minute. So one way we can find out how quickly and kind of watch the servers update to make it visible for us to see is we can go to a different website and identify how the DNS is propagating. So let's do that next. All right, so once you've dropped that IP into a DNS record, that A record, and put it in your Google DNS here, you can jump over to dnschecker.org. dnschecker.org, you can see that up top. And what we'll do is you can notice a bunch of different DNS checks here. So you can do all sorts of different record checks. So we'll check for A records on zaxllamas.com. Hit the search button, and we'll see that IP is starting to propagate everywhere. Fantastic. Okay, so what we'll do is we'll refresh zaxllamas.com, and we see, hello world, welcome to WordPress. So this is our WordPress site. We're able to now see our website is now being hosted from zaxllamas.com. See, it's still not secure, so we'll need to add an SSL certificate. We'll do that a little bit later. But you managed to do it. We did it. We all did it. zaxllamas.com is now live, and if you've been following along with me, you just have a couple steps maybe to take, and you'll be live as well. Then we can jump into our WordPress site and start securing it. So congratulations. Great job.